Welcome to the Lead Every Day show. Our mission is to see a world well led. And our strategy to get there? To empower leaders like you to lead every day. So let's get to work.
Few things are better than working with a leader or for a leader who sees you not just as an employee, but as a person. It's called demonstrating care. Welcome to the Lead Every Day show. I'm Randy Gravitt.
And I'm Mark Miller.
And today we're finishing up our conversation we've been having on fundamental number 4, to value results and relationship. And the strategy here is to demonstrate care. And Mark, I'm excited to dive in here with you today as we talk about this important need that leaders have to make sure that their people feel cared for.
Yeah, it's amazing how powerful care is. And it's also, for me, a little bit mind-boggling how careless leaders can be, myself included.
Yeah.
I often get blinded by the goal. I get blinded by the objective. I get blinded by the scorecard. And I hate it when that happens. And I'm going to continue to work till my last breath to be a leader who demonstrates care. I think that's a reflection of my heart, but it's not often, or not often enough, a reflection or reflected in my actions.
Yeah, and which actually is understandable based on what you shared the last few days. You have this bias to lean toward results, and we've said all week we need to understand which way we lean, and then we're going to have to compensate. And for those of us who lean on the results side, this is one that's going to put. I mean, it's easy to set expectations if you're a results person, but this demonstrating care thing is really important. And let me just throw in an idea here. I think it's hard to demonstrate care unless you care. I mean, you got to care if you're going to really do that. You can't just check the box here. I mean, it'd be tempting for us to just go, okay, this is another task thing. Let's check the box. Oh, I cared for people today. That's not. You got to really care if you're going to demonstrate care.
But let me add, for me, maybe for some people listening, the frustration is that I do care. I just forget to show it. I forget to demonstrate it. It's in my heart, but it's not manifest in my words or my deeds nearly often enough.
Yeah.
So that's a different kind of frustration. That's not a check the box. That's living with a painful awareness that I've got to stay on this.
Yeah.
Or
great.
I'm going to be perceived, and I would say mischaracterized as a leader who doesn't care.
Yeah.
Like nothing could be further from the truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I know I can drift in that direction.
Yeah, I think we have to work on our pace. You know, when it comes to this thing, I heard somebody say one time that love goes slow, and I think that's just a good reminder, especially if you have this propensity to go fast and you're charging and you're ready to roll. And a lot of leaders, a lot of you listening, you are a type A. Let's go take the hill. The goal is not to get to the top of the hill and be at the top of the hill. The goal is to get to the top of the hill. Yes. But you want to get there together. You want to get there with the people that you care about, and this demonstrating care thing is huge. So let's give them some ways that they can think about it. I think one of them is something I have to work on is not just listening, but listening. I have to work on listening for sure, but listening deeply, listening. You know, this idea of deep listening. I think we have to practice this. I know I do. This is. You know, you and I talk a lot. We're always talking, and so I don't know about you, but I'm constantly feeling like I've got to listen. I've got to work harder at listening. It's a real struggle, but it's the leaders who can get this right really have a way to demonstrate some of the things we've been talking about all week.
Yeah, it's an ongoing challenge for me. One of the things that I did during the pandemic, in addition to all the things that we all did, you know, the testing and the mask, and I did all that. Work remote, yeah, did all that. Work too many hours, yeah. But I also did 2 quarters of study remotely at Stanford in their D school. And I took 2 courses back to back, a total of about 18 or 20 weeks. And it was really focused on design thinking fueled by a form of ethnography anchored in listening.
Yeah.
It was mind-boggling. But let me share the reason I bring that up. one of the concepts that I walked away with is that deep listening, it's akin to looking at a piece of sheet music. And to the uninformed, you might look and see the notes and say, and someone would say, what do they represent? Say, well, they represent the music. Well, that's not actually true. It's probably a half-truth. Because in music, the spaces between the notes are also part of the music.
The rest is
it's when there's nothing, when there's nothing, that's part of the music.
Yeah.
And so when you're trying to practice deep listening, the notes are what people are saying, but the space between the notes are the things they're not saying. And so deep listening is listening to the notes and the spaces.
Yeah.
And I'd always had an appreciation for that form of ethnography, but my level of appreciation went really sky high.
Yeah, I'll push you here a little bit. But, our old buddy Dan Webster, he always tells me pride takes up space, humility creates space. It gives people a chance to be who they are. And that's really what we're talking about here is we're trying to understand the people on our team and help them lean in. And so if you're listening today, who is it out there that you really haven't been listening to not deeply listening to what they're saying? They're saying it, or maybe they've stopped saying it. They're just like, they're not going to listen anyway. I think we have a chance here to practice some deep listening.
Yeah. Are you just hearing the notes and you're not hearing the spaces?
What's in
Are
between?
you not
the
hearing
space?
what's in between? Are you hearing what they're not saying?
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Okay, so here's the second thing. I think this idea of pursuing real relationship, again, for those of you who lean on the result side, this might push you as well. Is to be authentic. It's not. You don't get to just say, I'm checking a box here. This is not what this is about. This really is that you're demonstrating genuine care for people, what they're going through, what they dream about. I mean, all kind of stuff that we could talk about here. But this idea of pursuing real relationships, and that might push some of you really hard to think about that. And I know there are people who have relational capacity to be friends with a bunch of people, and there's other people that are like, if you got, my wife always says, if you got one good friend, she's got lots of friends for this reason, but if you've got a good friend and you're there for them, that's great. But I think in our businesses, I think sometimes we don't think about this idea of care enough. We just think we're here for the work. We're not, check your heart at the door. I've heard leaders say that before, and that's not going to happen. Well,
not only is it not going to happen,
it's not supposed to happen.
I don't want those people.
No, we don't want to think that way.
I don't want those people on the team.
Yeah.
I want to bring their heart.
Yeah.
Bring their struggles, bring their challenges, and bring their passion and their gifts and their skills. I mean, I want the whole person around the table.
But I think when leaders think that way, it's even more dangerous. So if you're listening and you're like, you've not really been seeing your people. As people, I'm telling you what happens. They will leave you. And when I say that, let me say a couple of things. There's nothing worse than your people have left you and they haven't told you yet. I mean, they're still there. They're taking up your payroll, your labor. They're killing morale, all kind of stuff because they're disengaged. Back to what we talked about earlier. We want to make sure that we don't let our people leave us. And we don't want to be in a place where we're not caring for our people in such a way that they want to stay with us. They want to be with us. We talk about the idea of winning the hearts of our people, and it really pushes leaders when we start having that language and having those conversations. But they come back at the end of those events and go, like, this could change our whole business because we've been missing this. It's important. Okay, the last one is, I would say maybe this is the most important one for the individuals listening, but it's the idea of engaging personally. This is not something you delegate in your organization. Let's go back to what we talked about a couple of days ago. We've got to set the example for this, and so we want to make sure we're demonstrating what we're talking about individually. So whoever you are, you may own your company or you may be the newest person at your company. I want to challenge you to lean in personally. This you got a thought on that as we land
I think
this?
as we end this session, I want to add something here that applies to deep listening and pursuing real relationships, and it's what you said at the beginning. We're probably going to have to slow down just a little bit if we're going to demonstrate care. We're probably going to have to slow down just a little bit because you can't do any of those things well at 150 miles an hour. And I know that feels weird and awkward and off-putting to some of you, But if you can ultimately master this fundamental of valuing results and relationships, you'll just be amazed at what that will do for your leadership, your team, and your organization. So I think my last word here is just slow down just a little bit. And some of these things will be easier. They won't be easy, but they'll be easier.
That's so good. We're going to leave it right there with you. I will say this, our next fundamental, our last fundamental is my favorite one, and it might be the most important one. I hope you'll join us as we continue this conversation to help you become a leader who is pursuing uncommon greatness. Remember, the best leaders lead every day.